When Yaqub alayhi salam was dealing with the loss of Joseph or Yusuf for an extended period of time, and the story is too long, and perhaps in other times we can study the life of Yusuf alayhi salam more thoroughly. But there's this moment where his children are like, his sons are like, are you not over Yusuf yet? Are you not done thinking about Yusuf? Do you all know when this moment happens? This happens after Binyamin is no longer with them. He makes dua for Binyamin, but he makes dua for Yusuf along with Benjamin. And his sons are frustrated. They're like, you're still talking about Yusuf? Are you not over Yusuf yet? And sometimes part of what makes creation so fascinating is that humans will tell humans to get over things like it's a switch, or like we can erase the battle scars of life. And subhanAllah, people here who have lost loved ones, they will tell you that you never get over the loss of your mother. You never stop mourning the loss of people in your life. You never get over a traumatic experience like some type of abuse or something of that nature. But you learn to carry the grief more gracefully. And one of the best ways to carry the grief of life more gracefully is to do what Yaqub alayhi salam did. إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. إنما أشكو بثي وحزني إلى الله. I complain and I vent of my sorrow and my grief to Allah. As a therapist, I'll tell you that your greatest therapy in life will often be being with Allah, venting to Allah, complaining to Allah, explaining to Allah things He already knows, but talking to Allah about you, about your dreams and aspirations, about your goals and about your worries. إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Yaqub alayhi salam, he was having a moment of dua. And he says, oh Allah, return to me Yusuf and Binyamin. And his children heard him making dua, which shows us to be bold with our dua, to be blunt with our dua, to hear ourselves making dua. And his children overheard him saying, Ya Allah, bring me back Yusuf and Binyamin. And simply him calling for that made them like, you're still talking about this guy? You still think he's a part of the equation? And he said, listen, like his words were basically, I wasn't even talking to you. This is an A and B conversation between me and Allah. See your way out. You're not even a part of this equation. This is me talking to Allah about me. And we need to have conversations with the Creator that we're not wanting to have with the creation. Oftentimes people will come and they'll say, you know, I'm talking to you, Tariq, not even because I particularly like you. I'm always like, thank you so much for highlighting that. Like, it's just nice to have a third party who is unimpacted that I can speak to. There is not going to be any greater third party that is more unimpacted than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That doesn't mean don't go to someone that you can trust and rely. That doesn't mean don't go to your local imam or a therapist or a clinician. We encourage those things, but there is a level of healing that happens by being like Yaqub alayhi salam and saying, listen, A and B is happening right now. So don't include yourself in this. There's some type of healing that you get in that you will not get anywhere else. Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he teaches us to vent with Allah in a way we don't vent with anyone else. And then we go to Yunus alayhi salam. And Yunus alayhi salam, when he was in fi dhulumatin thalath, in the darkness upon darkness upon darkness, as some of the scholars describe, in the darkness of the night, in the darkness of the storm, and in the darkness of the sea, and in the darkness of the belly of the whale, what does he call out and say? La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. O Allah, there is no one worthy of worship or submission to but you. How perfect are you, O Allah? Indeed, I have done wrong. One of the things that our mashayikh taught us, our teachers taught us, is don't make everything about you. Don't make everything in this dunya about you. Make it about Allah. La ilaha illa ant. Oh Allah, I tried submitting to my desires. Oh Allah, I tried submitting to pop culture. Oh Allah, I tried submitting to my career. Oh Allah, I tried submitting to the norms of the world around me. Oh Allah, what I discovered is no one and nothing is worth true or full submission but you. La ilaha illa ant. Subhanak. How perfect are you? Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. I have wronged and transgressed far too many times, Ya Allah. But you are the perfect one. In a world in which I am so imperfect and my experiences are so imperfect, and the wrong I've done to others and the wrong that people have done to me is filled with so much imperfection and hurt. Ya Allah, this world is not a place that's all about me, me, me. La ilaha illa ant. The world is the way that it is. The way that the world is as it is, so that it can lead me to you. The greatest discovery of this world is Allah. And every part of this world leads us back to Him. La ilaha illa ant. Ya Allah, you've placed so many of us in darkness upon darkness upon darkness. Divorce and death and difficulty and sickness. And all of this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stripping things away from us to let us know that, Ya Allah, you are all that is worth truly, fully seeking. Everything else just leads to you. La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin is a lesson that the scholars teach us that says, don't make everything between you and Allah simply about you. Talk to Allah about Allah. Talk to Allah about His greatness. Talk to Allah of what you wish from Him. Talk to Allah about everything He's already done for you. And that's why these moments of difficulty, there are opportunities for us not just to see the difficulty, but to see in the midst of that difficulty, the greatness of Allah. When the world stops being great in your eyes, it becomes easier to see the greatness of Allah. And let me be very clear, to see that this world is not all that great is not an invitation to depression or hopelessness. To see that this world is all not that great is actually, it allows you to cherish the beauties of life a little bit more meaningfully, because you know that it is just temporarily as beautiful as it is. It's only temporarily as enjoyable as it is. So you hold on to it as it is, knowing that it will not always remain in the state that it is. Ad-dunya daru marar, wa laysa daru qarar. That this world is a passing place and not a place of full stability and consistency. That one day it's cold, the other day it's hot. One day you're tired, the other day you're energetic. Every hal of this world, every circumstance of this world is in fact a temporal and temporary state that we are in. And so to learn through this dua, La ilaha illa ant. Ya Allah, I'm not going to worship the wealth of this world, or the health of this world, or the careers of this world, or the houses of this world. I'm going to enjoy every moment of health. I'm going to live fully every moment of wealth. I'm going to appreciate every smile of my child and every hug of my spouse. I'm not going to be less invested in what the dunya has to offer me. But my investment in the dunya is going to lead me in the greatest investment of all. My investment in you, O Allah. That is what we learn from La ilaha illa ant. Subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. When Allah gives us storms, and Allah gives us darkness, and Allah places us in the belly of the whale, all of those are times that Allah is letting us know that the only one worth worshiping and seeking is truly Him. Then we have, after that, I'm trying to race through all of this, so forgive me. Then after that, we have the dua of Musa alayhi salam. What are some of the moments of supplication from the life of Musa that we can think about? What are some of the moments? Yes, two of you, inshallah. Go ahead. Beautiful. After he struck the man and the striking of the man ended the life of the man, right? What was his response? You got to bring it forward, bro. He said almost the identical dua of Adam alayhi salam when he ate from the tree. رَبِّي إِنِّي ظَلَمْتُ نَفْسِي فَاغْفِرْ لِي. Oh my Lord, I have wronged myself, so forgive me. What is the immediate response? فَغَفَرَ لَهُ. And Allah forgave him. This fa is different than the thumma. This fa indicates a level of instantaneous responsiveness. And that's why the sooner we repent after sin, the quicker we can feel the comfort of knowing Allah has forgiven us. When you raise your hands asking Allah Ta'ala to forgive you for even the subtle things of life, an imperfect prayer, some passive aggressiveness over a WhatsApp group you shouldn't even be in, the small things in life when you're like, man, like I could have done that better, right? Rabbi inni zalamtu nafsi faghfir li. Oh Allah, I've wronged myself, so forgive me. Immediately, oh Allah, forgive me, and immediately Allah Ta'ala forgives. This is one of the dua of Musa alayhi salam. In that moment when, and sometimes Musa alayhi salam's striking of the man there is a powerful moment. And we're not here to sit deeply with the story of Musa alayhi salam. Let's be very specific here. When Musa struck the man, was his intention to do good or to do harm? To do good. And a lot of times, and this is going to be a little bit painful, a lot of times with very, very good intentions, we do very, very harmful things. A lot of times with the best of intentions, we see a sister and she's not dressed the way, like she's not living up to our quote unquote standards. We see a brother and he's not eating the type of meat that we think is appropriate to be eaten. We see someone living a life that we once lived, but we're like, listen, man, we're past that. Like, you need to be at our level right now. And we may cause them a type of harm that we cannot even begin to measure. A lot of harm is done in the name of doing good. And Musa alayhi salam was so in tune with the reality of himself that he struck the man in the name of Allah, which sometimes is hard to put away, like I meant good, but I did a lot of harm. But he was so in tune with the reality of himself that instantaneously he said, no, that was a bad move with a good intention. And we need to be ready to see the harm that we do under the guise of good intentions. And remember, when shaitan cannot lead you to doing wrong with wrong intentions, he'll lead you to doing wrong with right intentions. That's shaitan. When shaitan cannot lead you to doing wrong with wrong intentions, he will lead you to doing wrong with the best of intentions. Because to him, that's one foot through the door. And if you do that enough, you'll end up feeling comfortable. Because if your good actions are causing harm, then you might begin to feel, I might as well be doing bad things. So Musa alayhi salam is a school in humility. When he did wrong, even with the best of intentions, he was able to see it right away. And instead of saying, but, that's the but that we got. But, I had the best of intentions. Let's be even deeper for a second. Some of the worst things that happen on the face of the earth today happen under the guise of good intentions. Some of the worst things that happen under the covering of good intentions. So we cannot hold them accountable to that, but let ourselves go for very problematic things under the best of intention. And Musa alayhi salam recognizes that good intentions are not enough. And that's why, what does he say? When Musa alayhi salam does that, he does another thing after making that dua. He gives life to his dua. And what do I mean by giving life to dua? You know, you can say that you want to eat healthy all your life, but unless you find the appropriate support system, talk is cheap. Musa alayhi salam says, oh Allah, forgive me. But then what did he do after striking the man? He left the lands of Fir'aun. We give life to our dua when our dua is not just lip service, when we're living that dua. When we say, oh Allah, help me to find good company, but we're hanging out in the wrong places with the wrong people, you're not giving life to your dua. It's like a guy sitting there eating eating like the unhealthiest of food and saying, and oh Allah, help me to get healthier. But you're consuming garbage. You're not gonna get healthier while you're eating garbage, right? It reminds me, I was talking to my sheikh recently, and he says, for a guy that doesn't eat healthy, you talk a lot about health. Like, sheikh, why you gotta put me on blast like that? He says, it's ironic that you use a lot of health metaphors, and I wouldn't refer to you as a particularly healthy person. I was like, Jazakallah khairan, sheikh. Love the support. But the reality is that if a person says that they, man, I really need help getting healthier, but they're sipping between a milkshake and a fried chicken sandwich, do you really want to be healthier, or you want the end result without the process? Right? Musa alayhi salam says, oh Allah, forgive me, I made a mistake. And then he says, Rabbi najjini min al-qawm al-zalimin. Oh Allah, save me from the people that transgress and do wrong. But did he stick around them? He was living in the palace of Fir'aun like it was Beverly Hills, living his best life, all the luxuries of it. And he says, oh Allah, save me from the people that are wrongdoing and oppressing and transgressing, from the people that are causing corruption. What does he do after he made that dua? He walked not just out of the palace of Fir'aun, not even out of the compound of Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam fled from exactly the entire land of Fir'aun. That is a dua that you're not just saying from here. That's a dua that you're saying from here. Remember what we said in the first session? Where does dua truly come from? Sameem al-qalb. Your supplications to God, you hear them from here, but your supplications to God come from the chambers of your heart. And that shows in our actions. Musa alayhi salam said, God, save me from being amongst those that are causing harm to others, from being within the lands of the oppressors. And then he walked his way out of there. We say, God, save us from the wrong people, and then we text the wrong people. We say, God, take me out of bad places, and then we Google Maps the wrong places, right? We say, God, make me from the people of Jannah, and then we're going to the places of Jahannam, right? And last time I left here, and I went straight to a cookie place that I'm not going to mention the name of, Treat You Better, right? And I was standing there in the line, and I had someone requested some cookies from me. And then as I was standing in the line, and I was thinking about just some of the sounds that were around me and the ruckus that was around me, and I began to ask myself, is this a place that Allah Ta'ala would love to see me in? Then I remembered that this is a halal Muslim business, and we're supporting a Muslim business, and we're getting halal food. And I said, you know what, we'll pay a little bit of price to get there, but that we shouldn't spend too much time in these type of places. But I valued that my teachers had taught me to ask myself the question, is this where Allah Ta'ala would like to see me? You can ask Allah to place you with the right people all the time, but unless you place yourself with the right people in the right places, you're not going to feel like that dua is going to be answered. Brothers and sisters, when Musa alayhi salam left the lands of Fir'aun, you know what he said? He said to Allah, oh Allah, I don't know where I'm going, but I know I want to go to you. He didn't even, in one of the narrations it says, he didn't even know what Madian was. He ended up going to Madian, right? He didn't even know Madian. He didn't know the word Madian. He didn't know the name Madian. Sometimes when we leave people for Allah, when we leave places for Allah, when we leave relationships for Allah, when we leave careers for Allah, we don't know the replacement relationship. We don't know the replacement career. We don't know the rebound, and we shouldn't be looking for a rebound. We should say, Ya Allah, I'm leaving these people, these places, these things, Ya Allah, I'm leaving them for you. And Ya Allah, because I'm leaving them for you, I know that your choices for me are going to be better than my choices for myself. That is the dua of Musa alayhi salam, showcasing to us that when we leave things for God, no matter what they are, God will replace them always with something better than them. and to ask ourselves, are we honored of the people that we've placed in our life, the places that we've placed in our life, and to be ready to change them for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why when Musa alayhi salam leaves the palace of Fir'aun and he finds himself in Madian, what is Madian compared to the lands of Fir'aun? What is Madian compared to the lands of Fir'aun? Small village, right? Nothing worth writing. Nothing worth writing a postcard home about. He left living like a king. He was the prince of Egypt. He was living like royalty. And now he's in the lands of Madian, where men and women are fighting for water that they're trying to get for their animals. And yet when he goes there, sometimes when we find ourselves at places we go to for God, what do we find? We find them not to be like the things that we let go of for God. But what does he say in response? Rabbi, inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. O Allah, I am in need of whatever you choose to bring my way. And I am accepting of whatever goodness you bring my way. That level of humility with God allows us to see the greatness of God even in the most subtle of places. So you leave the coolest of people for God, and you might be like, man, like I feel alone right now. I'm stuck with a bunch of people that I can't even begin to connect with. I feel like I left very strong connections for very mid connections. But then you say, Ya Allah, thank you for this replacement. And you see what Allah Ta'ala makes of it. And Allah Ta'ala sometimes gifts us seeds because Allah wants to witness you watering those seeds that He gave you. Don't undermine the seeds of God. Don't undermine the seeds of God. Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. Look at, like, it's as if we're walking through the story of Musa, through the dua of Musa. Through the dua of Musa, we go from he struck the man, to he left the land of Fir'aun, to now he's in the lands of Madian, to he's saying, oh Allah, I'm in need of whatever goodness you send my way. He had no, in one of the tafsirs it says, it wasn't even in his wildest dreams that Allah would give him a wife, let alone a wife and a job, let alone a wife and a job and children, let alone all of the wealth that he was given. It wasn't even in his wildest dreams. He's like, listen, Allah brought me to Madian. I have no idea what I'm going to get from Madian. But if you look at the trajectory of Musa alayhi salam stories, you'll see when you feel like you have nothing, that is oftentimes when you truly begin to see the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. So even when what it seems to be that Allah has given us is little, see the greatness of Allah even in the littlest of things. And then if we were to move on, and again the dua of Musa alayhi salam are far too many, we'll go to the dua of Yusuf alayhi salam. And oftentimes when we think about dua, we talk to Allah about the difficulties that we're going through. This is common. And we talk to Allah about our sins. This is also common, right? But Yusuf alayhi salam engages with us about something different. And that is, and so we're just the different types of dua. We talk to Allah Ta'ala about difficulties. That was Yaqub alayhi salam. We talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about anxieties that we have. That's Musa alayhi salam, right? Like the anxiety of what is yet to come. We talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about the sins that the mistakes that we've made. That's Adam alayhi salam, right? Are you guys with me? Now we talk to Allah. This is Yusuf alayhi salam showcases to us something we haven't talked to Allah about yet, consistently perhaps. And that is, Yusuf alayhi salam teaches us to talk to Allah about ta'ah, about our obedience and our sacrifices for Allah. رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. It's not just that we talk to Allah about grief. It's not just that we talk to Allah about death. It's not just that we talk to Allah about sadness. It's not just that we talk to Allah about anxiety. Yusuf alayhi salam teaches us, Yusuf alayhi salam being my teacher and your teacher, He teaches us to talk to Allah about our obedience to Allah. رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ. Oh my Lord, prison is more beloved to me than what they call me to. When was the last time we talked to Allah about our prayer? When was the last time we talked to Allah about our letting go of sins and bad habits? When was the last time we talked to Allah about us guarding our gaze? When was the last time we talked to Allah about giving in charity? Don't just talk to Allah about the parts of yourself that you hate. Talk to Allah about the parts of yourself that you love. Talk to Allah about your charity. Talk to Allah about your obedience to your parents, about your dutifulness to your spouse. Talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about your dua. Talk to Allah about the parts of you that you love. About the parts of you that you love. The Prophet ﷺ used to do that. Oh Allah, this is my dua, accept it, he used to say. Oh Allah, this is my charity, accept it, Ya Allah. Oh Allah, this is my prayer, accept it, Ya Allah. Talk to Allah not just about the worst parts of you. Talk to Allah about the most beautiful and brilliant parts of who you are. رَبِّ السِّجْنُ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا يَدْعُونَنِي إِلَيْهِ is Yusuf alayhi salam being called to the worst of things and him saying, Ya Allah, prison is more beloved to me, being imprisoned and wrongly incarcerated, just like so many of our brothers and sisters across America and across the world are wrongly incarcerated. He says to be wrongly incarcerated, O Allah, is more beloved to me than for me to disobey you. He talked to Allah about his own obedience. Talk to Allah about your obedience, your worship, your devotion. Normalize that being a part of your dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is something that, subhanAllah, I feel like we lose sight of so often. And the other is that, what is the greatest thing that Allah ta'ala can give to us through dua? And again, we're just driving through, literally at about 80 miles an hour. That's how fast I was going when I got a ticket last night. It's horrible. I was driving from my in-laws. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and preserve them. Solid iftar, decent, not worth the ticket, but worth the drive. And I was driving back and I was trying to catch Taraweeh at the masjid. And the cop pulled me over. He's like, do you know how fast you were going? I was like, why are you going to ask me that question? If I knew how fast I was going, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And it's a long story. But the idea there is that, I'm trying to remember what the role was of that in dua. But nonetheless, we are cruising. Oh, now I remember. We're cruising and we're speeding through the du'as of the prophets. So forgive me if we're rushing through them. But Zakaria alayhi salam is a school of being persistent in dua. Because what is the greatest answer of a dua? What is the greatest answer of a dua? What is the greatest answer of a dua? That you continue to make dua. The greatest gift of dua is that it leads you to further connecting with Allah. The greatest result of you asking Allah to bless you with children is not that you get children. We ask Allah Ta'ala to bless you all with healthy and beautiful and adorable children. And send pics when you do, inshallah. That's not the point though. What's the greatest thing that can come out of a person making dua consistently for children? That in the process of them begging Allah to have a child, they are not only granted a child, they are granted a connection with the one who's the only one that can give you a child, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The greatest giving of Allah is that He gives us a connection with Himself. Zakaria alayhi salam, he calls upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and he embodies this persistency, this consistency in dua in a way that matches like Ibrahim alayhi salam. Right? وَزَكَرِيَّا إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ رَبِّ لَا تَذَرْنِي فَرْدًا وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الْوَارِثِينَ إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. Zakaria alayhi salam, he calls upon his Lord and he says, Oh Allah, do not leave me alone with myself. One of the greatest trials of this world is loneliness, being alone. Right? That's why Jannah, even Jannah with all of its beauty, if you remember when we talked about Adam alayhi salam, In Jannah, he lived in Jannah, but what did he yearn for? Companionship. And that's why Allah Ta'ala gifted him Hawa. And Zakaria alayhi salam is afraid of being alone, with no offspring, with no lineage after him. Rabbi la tadharni farda wa anta khayrul warithin. And you're the best of givers, and you're the one who best leaves things to be inherited. إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا. It shows us a glimpse of what his dua looked like. نادى ربه نداء خفيا. He called upon his Lord a calling that was so light. Nida and khafiya. What does that give us insight to? That tells us that sometimes when we make dua for something, the first time we're optimistic, the second time we're hopeful, the third time we're questioning, the fourth time we're doubtful, the fifth time we're kind of saying, Ya Allah, this is my fifth time asking, like make this happen. The dua goes from being very light to being what? To being very heavy. It almost goes from requesting or wishing to hoping to asking to requesting to demanding to questioning to doubting. Right? That's like the thing. When in reality, إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا, his hope and wish remained light and hopeful and optimistic even decades after he began to ask Allah for a child. It was like he was asking Allah for a child for the very first time. He was equally hopeful. The thousandth time that he asked Allah for a child, he was as hopeful as he was, if not more, than the first time he asked Allah for a child. That is the dua of a faqir. At the thousandth time, you ask Allah hoping that He would answer, just like the first time. Because it was never about you, it was always about Allah. And in the first time, and in the thousandth time, Allah remained Allah. Allah remained the same. It doesn't change the dynamic of your dua with Allah. إِذْ نَادَى رَبَّهُ نِدَاءً خَفِيًّا. He called upon Allah a light calling, shows us that as he witnessed every day that his dua was not answered in the way that he wanted it to be answered, it never shifted him from understanding that Allah was answering him all along. So his hope in Allah Ta'ala remained the same. Are you guys with me? Then we have, what time is iftar here? I don't want to put you guys to sleep right before iftar. 54? Oh, we got all the time in the world. MashaAllah, Jazakumullah khair. You guys okay? طيب. Then he continues and he says, he starts to, what did we mention last time? We said talk to Allah about Allah. Like don't just make it about you. And we said that this is not in contradiction with you drawing out your landscape of where you are to Allah. And what did we say last time? Not because you need to let Allah know about your circumstance, but because you need to let your circumstance know about Allah. Are you guys with me? Remember that statement that we said? We said dua is not to remind Allah of your problems. Dua is to remind your problems of Allah. What does that mean? Who can tell me what that means instead of it just being an Instagrammable clip? Right? What does that mean? Dua is not to remind Allah of your problems. Because does Allah need to be reminded of your bills? Does Allah need to be reminded that your bank account is the negative? Allah does not need to be reminded, right? But dua is to remind your problems of Allah. What does that mean? What does it mean to remind your problems about Allah? Yes, my sister.
So it kind of puts it into perspective, making like problems smaller than they seem. My God is capable of anything and everything. And, there's no possibility that He cannot make true.
Yeah, you reminded me of a khala, an auntie in Gaza. She was standing on top of the rubble of her house. Jazakumullah khairan. And she was sitting there and she said, I saw the destruction of my home. And I remembered the meals that I had there. And I thanked Allah for every meal I had in that house. And I remembered the nights that I slept there. And I thanked Allah for every night that we were blessed to have it. And in that type of perspective, that ability to see not just the greatness of Allah, but the greatness of what Allah has done for you. Before you complain to Allah that your eyesight is getting weaker, if you are reminding your problems of Allah, you remember that for 20 years, your eyesight was great. And like you said, it contextualizes the complaint to Allah. It doesn't make it any less painful, but it actually allows you to see the beauty of what Allah has done in the same time that you see the difficulty of what you are experiencing. So, Sayyidina Zakaria, and there's too much to say about that, and perhaps we can talk about that in another session. So he shows us the ability to remind our problems of Allah and how he talks to Allah. He says, Rabbi, inni wahana al-'azmu minni, washta'ala al-ra'su shayba, walam akun bidu'aika rabbi shaqiya. Wallahi, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. He says, my Lord. Even just the word Rabb, practice saying Rabbi. Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, O my Lord, O beater of my heart, O one who blinks my eyes, O one who moves my fingers, O one who helps me to walk, O one who is always caring for me, O one who allowed me to leave my house and get here safely today. That's what Rabbi is. Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. Wallahi, just repeating Ya Rabbi is softening and comforting to the heart. Wallahi, it is. He says, Inni wahana al-'azmu minni. My bones are aching, Ya Allah. My bones are hurting, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, you made my bones and you know the nature of how they are. My bones have grown frail, Ya Allah. وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. Ishta'ala is a word that you typically use to indicate like the lighting of a fire. What is that word? It's funny when you can't remember the word in English. Ishta'ala, I'm sorry? Ignited. Yes, very good. He said, my hair has been ignited with grayness. Like it was like a fire that started and all my hair was black or brown. And then it was ignited with grayness, like I've been struck with grayness. What is he trying to say? Ya Allah, my bones are aching and I've gotten old way too fast. وَاشْتَعَلَ الرَّأْسُ شَيْبًا. And I'm fully old. It might actually, ushtal al-ra'su may also indicate like how far along his age he's gotten, that his grayness looks like it was a wildfire that's went like across his hair, right? وَلَمْ أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. This is my favorite part. And all along, لَمْ أَكُنْ. Lam over here means not in the past, not in the present, and not in the future. أَكُنْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. Not in the past, not in the present, not in the future, not at any point of time have I become in my prayers to you hopeless and sad, Ya Allah. While he's talking to Allah. What does this further imply? What did we say? Nida'an khafiyya. That his dua always remained light. He's saying, Ya Allah, I've been making dua long enough that my bones are aching. Ya Allah, I've been making dua long enough that I was making this dua first when my hair was black. And now I'm making this dua while my hairs are gray. And Ya Allah, throughout this whole time, I have never become hopeless of asking this thing of you. Then he says, وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. And I fear for my people after me. You see, sometimes the things we ask of Allah Ta'ala for, yes, I'm sorry. Oh, are we at time? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, we'll wrap up inshallah. I'm so sorry. We have the shahadas and then, so the last point that I'll end with inshallah is, وَإِنِّي خِفْتُ الْمَوَالِيَ مِنْ وَرَائِي. He says that I'm afraid of myself and the people, I'm afraid of the people after me. And this is a reminder, the last benefit that we'll have is that even in the process of making dua, we don't just make dua for ourselves, but we make dua for others. and to make it a trend that we don't just pray for ourselves to fulfill our own needs, but we make dua for everyone around us. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us from the people of dua. We ask Allah Jalla Jalaluh to allow us to be upon those who call upon Him by night and by day. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to allow this day to be a beautiful day for our brothers and sisters who are entering Islam today. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make this Ramadan the greatest Ramadan of our life. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to free us and our loved ones from the fire of hell and to write us as the people of Jannah. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.